welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful May the 8th, 2020. Grando Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, it's been kind of confusing down here the past couple of days. I know we're supposed to be in the middle of summer, and all of a sudden it's 46 degrees. I got a fire going in the fireplace, and I'm sitting here excited about doing the show.
Yeah, it's always nice to have. You got the fireplace going. You know it is summertime, right, Big C? Almost summer. Your thoughts?
Well, at 46 degrees, I'm kind of confused as far as Mother Nature about what time of the year is. I just know it's damn cold.
Yeah, it's cold. It's about 94 degrees here in Northern California. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, Big C Sports is powered by Google. And Alexa, just say Google, or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic from 3,000 miles away, and he will do his thing. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you gotta have a smart TV, or you'll be looking at a still picture of Big C. You know, we give out this Veterans Crisis line on this beautiful Mother's Day weekend, wishing all the mothers out there in the universe a happy Mother's Day weekend. But I want to make sure that everybody understands we do have a Veterans Crisis hotline. They can help anybody, their experience in helping veterans and their loved ones. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, Charlton, it shouldn't just be important to me. It should be important to everybody. And if anybody is aware of the plight of our veterans in this country and around the world, they understand today is the 75th anniversary of the ending of World War II, which is known as V-Day.
Yeah.
But since then, Charlton, we've been in many other wars around the world, and our veterans have struggled and suffered every day since being out of the military. If you think about a veteran, they are one and a half times more susceptible to commit suicide than just the average person on the street. And if you think about our female veterans, they're 2.2 times as susceptible to committing suicide as the average person on the street.
Wow.
So as we think about the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, and having these veterans with an outlet of someone to speak to who is non-judgmental, hopefully they can stem this tide of this horrific disease of suicide. You think about the plight that we're in and how big a fight it's been to curb this coronavirus, which is an epic disease within itself. But our veterans deserve this type of treatment every day, Charlton, to find a way to curb the disease of suicide that they go through, and the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number is one way to start it.
I love giving out, especially on this beautiful Mother's Day weekend coming up, 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get some help. Really happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants. When you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 100 real estate brokers, put their property listings on TV, just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it. And sports teams, they're starting to do it too. Big C, you can let TV work for your real estate. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Also for opportunities in real estate, just go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com and learn about opportunities. Big C, so much going on in this world. I know everybody's trying to figure out how can we get more people gathered together and play sports. But before we even get into that, I want to just take the time to say happy Mother's Day weekend. And I to all the mothers, in the universe, especially for my mom, and I just love telling her that, and also my wife, who's been just fabulous with my children. I want to just say that everybody has this thought that you can't go and see your parents. I think based on what doctors are saying, you can see people. You're just not supposed to be hugging and wear a mask and do all those things too. Every day is a gift, and when you have a gift, you got to open it. I just want my mother to know that I really, 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 really appreciate everything you've ever done for me from the bottom of my heart. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, Mother's Day, this is a troubling Mother's Day weekend coming up in America, Charlton, because so many elderly mothers that are out there, and when you bring family members from around the country to meet with them and to gather and to celebrate that day, Charlton, is set aside for them, whether you're looking at grandkids or just the children, Charlton, you know, you really have to be health conscious in this situation. It's not that everybody does not want to be with or around their mother. It's just you have to weigh the risk, Charlton, because all mothers, once they get up in age, they're dealing with different health issues than what the average person is. And so that's one of the things you have to be cognizant of. They all understand that we love them. I mean, there's many ways to get in contact now through, you know, whether you're FaceTiming over the computer or the phone and other ways to get there, Charlton. But, you know, when they know that you love them and they love you back, Charlton, that a lot of times that does enough.
Yeah, and everybody, make sure you reach out, let your mothers know that you really appreciate everything they've done. And if it were not for mothers, there'd be no men walking around in the universe, Big C. So I really appreciate the fact that we do have a Mother's Day weekend, and I just love being able to say that to my mother every day. You know, when it comes to large gatherings and sporting events and other events, there's a statement came out of Oregon yesterday that sports should either be canceled or significantly modified through September because of COVID-19. And I believe Governor Kate Brown made that announcement on Thursday. And the announcement will have a direct impact on the NBA's Portland Trail Blazers, Major League Soccer's Portland Timber. And then you have the college programs, whether it's Oregon State, Oregon or Portland State. And then, of course, you have all the high schools and junior colleges, too. But Oregon's becoming more progressive, even though it's been known in the past as the days of the Bill Walton and the more relaxed state, Big C. But they're very progressive, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, as everyone is talking about getting things back to normalcy, Charlton, even when you open up these states, and if you look at how the states are opening up and you look at the businesses that are opening up, those are the type of businesses that support a third world country. You can't just open up small little restaurants, hair salons, and barbershops, and, you know, massage parlors and things of that nature, and then you can only operate with a 25% capacity because that's not even enough to cover your overhead.
Yeah.
So you can't bring enough people in with the lifting of some of these restrictions to really support your employees and your overhead in your business. And not only that, when you think about 80% of the employers in America are small business,
yep,
and they can only operate as a 25% capacity, Charlton, you can't support people. But, I mean, as we look at the consistent rise of the positive cases in America and also the death toll as it rise, and then you have the administration saying, well, we don't want to test more people than what we're doing because if you keep testing people, then you're going to end up with positive people.
Yeah.
It's like the CDC put out a set of guidelines and restrictions as far as reopening the country. The White House saw this guideline that the CDC has put out. And the CDC has been in operations for decades,
yeah,
and they've helped everyone around the world. The White House said they weren't pleased with the restrictions, and they sent them back and said they weren't going to use them.
Yeah, even going around the world, the United States blocks the United Nations Security Council vote on coronavirus. It just doesn't make any sense. You would think you would want more people to know how to keep all of ourselves safe. And then again, that's for science and politicians. And I want to get on some stuff about the NFL schedule, but I also want to say to a lot of the colleges, and we're all facing it. We're all of us. They're going to open the economy again. They're going to open it, and it's just part of what they're going to do. But we all got to just stay abreast of what we can do to keep ourselves safe, too. I want to go into something that happened in the NFL, Big C. The 2020 NFL schedule, it came out, and there's really about 10 big games on the season. I mean, if we have football, that's the one thing, is the big caveat, if we have football. But there's a lot of big games coming up, whether they have fans in the stands or not. But if you go right into week 3, I want to get your thoughts on a couple of games. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're going to be at the Baltimore Ravens. We know the Ravens were the number 1 seed last year in the AFC going into the playoffs. But Kansas City ended up winning the Super Bowl with a great performance of Patrick Mahomes. Give me your thoughts in a good world where everything's fair, that we're going to have health and just hopefully people will be healthy. Kansas City at Baltimore, Big C, your thoughts?
You know, Charlton, if this game goes off as planned in week 3, you're talking about lightning in a bottle between two prolific offenses. You know, you got the past 2 reigning MVPs of the NFL that will be facing each other, as well as the current Super Bowl champion quarterback. You know, both of these teams did outstanding in the offseason as far as revamping their teams and adding needed weapons in their offense. You know, Baltimore is going to have a lot to prove. You know, they've played each other a couple of times over the past couple of seasons, very exciting games, but this is one that everybody would want to see.
It really is a game, and it's like this is a playoff game, but they're not messing around. They're giving it to us in the first 3 weeks of the season. Also, there's another good game. There's about 10 that I looked at that I want to get your thoughts. You go to week 6, you have the Green Bay Packers. They're going to be at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so they're going to reunite Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady again. And this has, if Tampa lives up to all the billing and all the hype, and I'm not sure if they will, but who has a crystal ball? Give me your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers and then Tom Brady, because that's how they'll build the game. Big, so your thoughts.
Well, you know, but if you get to that point of the season, you got to think that Tampa's going to be in tune with everybody. They're going to be in mesh. And when you think about the great set of receivers that they have down there with Evans and Godwin, they brought in Gronkowski. They also got O.J. Howard, another tight end, Charlton, and Tom Brady. Would be the best receiving core that he's ever had to work with. On the flip side, you look at Green Bay. You know, Aaron Rodgers put up good numbers last year. Had one of the best years of his career. You know, the defense is what did not deliver. But when you think about some free agent moves that Green Bay made, bringing in some key acquisitions, they're ready to play. But, you know, this is one that you look forward to. You know, you got the number 2 all-time passer in NFL history versus a guy who needs the ball with the last 2 minutes of the game.
I don't know if he still wants it with the last 2 minutes of the game, Big C. It's all fair and love and war, especially if you have the lead. Of course, it's good to get the ball in the last 2 minutes. I want to go to week 10. If you look at what the 49ers were able to do last year, got on to Super Bowl 54, had the lead with about 7 minutes left. They had a 10-point lead, and they ended up losing by 10, so I know that has to hurt. They're going to be at the New Orleans Saints, and I remember last year they played the game right around December, and the 49ers just had an incredible game. It's kind of a seesaw back-and-forth game. I remember tight end Kittle had a catch where it seemed like he pulled people down the sideline like a tow truck pulls cars for about 25 yards and set them up to get the winning field goal. So that's a game that they're going to do it again down in the Big Easy. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about the 49ers, they have a very favorable schedule to start the season. There's no doubt that they should start out the season at least 4-0, and they could go into this game with no more than 1 loss against the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints know that the clock is ticking. When you think about it, there are 3 years that they should have potentially been in the Super Bowl, and they have not gotten there because of walk-off touchdowns that have defeated them. Drew Brees, I mean, at home in New Orleans, he's tough to beat. And when you think about what they've done at the skill position, adding Sanders to go along with Thomas, if Kamara is healthy, we saw a tremendous shootout last year in the Dome that ended in a last-second field goal with the 49ers walking away with a victory. I see that same type of game rounding up again in 2020.
It's amazing. They let them stay down south instead of sending them good old Saints out to the West Coast. But if you're going to win, you got to go on the road and win. Also, really looking forward to that game, Big C. Also, there's a big matchup in Week 12. You go to Kansas City, Missouri. They're going to be flying down south to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The weather should not be a factor, but when you look at Kansas City and they have Patrick Mahomes, you have Tampa Bay now with Tom Brady. The last time they met, I know Brady got a lot of referee friends were helping him. They were helping the Patriots get out of Kansas City with a win. And now you got to go on the road and face that same quarterback. I'm hoping it's going to be a great matchup. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, every time they faced each other, it's been a shootout. You know, what gives everyone promise against Kansas City is that they've had a very poor secondary over the last couple of seasons. Even though they've had an offense that will always keep you in the game.
Yep.
And when you got Tampa coming in with that great receiving core that they have, but also, you know, this is a matchup that, you know, will remind a lot of people of a game a couple of years ago with the Los Angeles Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs, when it seems like they were going to run out of time instead of running out of points,
yeah.
you know, in the game. And I see that type of game, you know, a high-scoring affair, over 40 points each team.
Yeah, it's amazing that as a defensive guy, you like to see a lot of points scored. I guess that's only if you're not playing in the game, but it's all fair and love and war. Week 13, you have the Cincinnati Bengals. They're going to send Joe Burrow, if he wins the starting job, back into SEC territory. They're going to be at the Miami Dolphins, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of reasons to celebrate with the great Don Shula, just in memories of him. So Miami should have at least they had a good draft. We'll see what they look like as a team. Your thoughts on Cincinnati, which really needs to turn things around, going down into the heat and the humidity, as you guys call it, humidity of South Florida. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, this could end up being a very tough season for Cincinnati. I mean, they got to figure out who they are as an identity. The head coach, Zach Taylor, you know, got thrown to the Wolves last year, and everybody was under this belief that anybody who Sean McVay shook hands with was going to be the next great guru coach in the NFL. It's not that simple.
Yeah.
I like what Brian Flores has done down there in Miami in his first year. He's got a veteran quarterback in Fitzpatrick, you know, if he stays healthy and is a starting job. And we all know what he can do at the beginning part of the season when he was in Tampa a couple of years ago. You know, he went out and set a record for the first 5 games of the season for yardage for a quarterback in NFL history. And so, you know, and with the proven weapons that they've brought in for him, this should be one that Miami gets. You know, it would be nice to see Burrow versus Tua.
Yeah.
But I think this will be Fitzpatrick's team still.
Well, that is a game I look forward to seeing. I want to also come up to the West Coast. You have the 49ers, San Francisco 49ers, the defending NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. They'll be at home hosting the Buffalo Bills, coming in from Orchard Park, New York. So that's a long plane flight for the kids from Buffalo. And coming out to San Francisco, their defense was so nasty last year. They just needed to play better in the final 7 minutes of the game in the Super Bowl, and they would have been defending Super Bowl champions. But Buffalo comes in with a pretty solid defense on their own. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Buffalo comes in with a solid defense, but they come in with an improving offense. When you look at the weapons that they've added, you know, they have Stephon Diggs now on the outside as well as Singletary in the backfield. Josh Allen, they've made him more of a mobile quarterback, just like Patrick Mahomes, understanding that he puts a lot more pressure on a defense when he just doesn't sit stationary in the pocket. And when you look at the growth that he made from first year to second year as a starter, there's huge expectations in Buffalo this year for the Bills.
Well, it's a game I look forward to seeing. I just hope, I'm hoping the science and whatever we need to get some people in stadiums, if they're going to go forward, I just hope that we have a great environment. I want to take you to maybe what some people feel might be the biggest game of the year, not only because it's Week 13, but you have the Dallas Cowboys that are loaded in the NFC, going up to Baltimore, playing the Ravens that are also loaded in the AFC, and you have 2 dynamic quarterbacks, and it's a game for just bragging rights and what the future of the NFL may look like. So give me your thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys and what they've done building their team up. If they sign Dak, maybe Dak Prescott will have a contract by the time they face the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Dallas's biggest question mark is on defense. We understand the weapons that they have offensively at quarterback, running back, and receiver, but their offensive line is aging. They're filling it in. You know, they've lost a few players on that side of the ball, but their defense was quite porous. Will Van Der Esch be back at 100% at linebacker? They have to replace Jones at cornerback. So there's some problems. Robert Quinn, they lost their top pass rusher. So Dallas, when you have to face a prolific offense like Baltimore has, and they've improved their offensive weapons in Baltimore. And so Dallas, you know, they're going to need Dak Prescott at his finest playing Baltimore, because Baltimore will score a lot of points on that Dallas defense.
Yeah, it's like winning the Mega Millions. You're going to have a lot of points scored in that game, Big C. I'm sure they're going to have the scoreboard lighting up. That's another big game that has so much intrigue. It's kind of like that passing of the guard, if that makes any sense. Week 15, Kansas City Chiefs, defending world champion Kansas City Chiefs, will be playing at New Orleans down there in the Dome Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And this is a game that has so much of a Super Bowl appearance feel to it. You know New Orleans is going to be amazing if they get fans in the stands. And then Patrick Mahomes and then Drew Brees. And you know Drew Brees is going to try to get to 80,000 yards before he hangs up the cleats. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, this is a game that everybody thought 2 years ago might be the Super Bowl matchup down in Atlanta.
Yep.
You know, if not for that blown call by the officials on Roby for the Rams.
Yep.
You know, the bad call with Ford being offsides for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
You know, those two teams could have potentially met up in the Super Bowl in Atlanta. And this is a game that you'd like to have late in the season, Week 15. This could be a prelude to a Super Bowl. Two prolific offenses, you know, playing in pristine conditions inside the Dome in New Orleans.
Yep.
And you got the greatest quarterback of all time versus the most exciting quarterback we've ever seen.
It's amazing how many points we can see down in the Dome if you can hear the crowd. The crowd is so loud, and just hoping that we'll have that opportunity to see that. And then Week 16, you have the Minnesota Vikings at the New Orleans Saints. I remember when Diggs caught that pass in Minnesota in the playoff game against the Saints, and it was an incredible catch. It's like maybe the DBs closed their eyes. I don't know, but New Orleans has had those problems. They get a chance at redemption this time if they come down into the Dome in the south part of the country. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, last year it was Rudolph with the push up in the corner of the end zone to score a touchdown to knock the Saints out of the playoffs again, Charlton. So, I mean, New Orleans is stake bitten. I mean, and this might be good for New Orleans.
Yeah.
If it's going to happen, not be in the playoffs, let it happen at the end of the regular season, and they won't have to face this team in the playoffs and potentially get all the way to the Super Bowl this time.
Isn't that amazing? If they play with there's nothing on the line, they'll probably have a better chance to win that game. But even when it comes to winning games, I think the NFL, they're so loaded at the receiver position. I want to look at the top 12 wide receivers of the 2020 NFL season coming up, and I hope we have a season. And it's just, I'm going to throw them out there. It's just my opinion, but you don't have to agree with the order. But number one, I say is, I'm going to start backwards. I'm going to go number 12, Mike Evans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know Brady's his quarterback, but Brady can't throw the ball long downfield. They're going to have a lot of catching, yards after catch for him, my opinion. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you look at what Mike Evans has done, you know, since he's come to the NFL out of Texas A&M, Charlton, he's done nothing but have 1,000-yard seasons. And, you know, he has a teammate on the other side that did the same thing. And, you know, I think what they're going to have with Tom Brady in his system is more efficient passing.
Yeah.
Is that they're going to get the ball early, and it's going to be a lot of yards after the catch. He'll still have another all-pro year.
Yeah, they're going to blitz Tom Brady a lot. He's going to have to get some yards after the catch. Number 11 on the list, Juju Smith-Schuster out of USC, playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if Big Ben is back, will he even be healthy enough to get the ball downfield? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Juju had a falling off once Antonio Brown was gone because he's the number 2 receiver. He hadn't been a bona fide number 1.
Yeah.
But he needs a healthy quarterback. Pittsburgh went through 3 quarterbacks last year, and he had a down year.
Yeah, he had a down year, but they all struggled the last couple of years in Pittsburgh. Just a lot of issues, but I think this year they have a good opportunity to get back on track. Number 10, receiver by the name of Kenny Galladay with the Detroit Lions. I know Matthew Stafford can throw the ball a lot, but he has to because it seems like they're always coming from behind, which should give Galladay a lot of good numbers this year. Big C, your thoughts?
Galladay is an outstanding receiver who runs under the radar in the NFL. A couple of 1,000-yard seasons he's had there in Detroit, and he just like, you know, when you think about Juju Smith-Schuster, he had to go through 3 different quarterbacks to accumulate those yards last year with no running game in sight.
Yeah, I agree with that very much. I want to take you up to the Great Lakes, land of the Great Lakes. Adam Thielen, the Minnesota Vikings. I know they want to really build up Kirk Cousins. This guy's a lot better than a lot of people think, I believe. That's my opinion. Give me your thoughts on Thielen, Big C, your thoughts.
You know, Adam Thielen is, you know, product of what hard work will do for you. Undrafted free agent with the Minnesota Vikings. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons when you think about him. He set an NFL record, I believe, with 9 consecutive games of over 100 yards and receptions. And he's had over 100 receptions in the past 2 seasons. An outstanding receiver, and he should have even a better year with Diggs not being there with him.
Yeah, he's going to have to count on his hands and legs a lot more without Diggs being there to help him out, too. And then I want to come out to the West Coast, this beautiful stadium, SoFi Stadium. It should be the shining glass, the glass slipper of the NFL, Big C. I look at Cooper Kupp for the LA Rams. You have Jared Goff, who can throw the ball downfield. Still want to see him put more muscle on him. But Cooper Kupp is a decent and faster receiver than a lot of people give him credit, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, he's an Adam Thielen of the West Coast. I mean, as he goes, the Rams' offense goes. When he's healthy, they're productive. He's Jared Goff's go-to guy. I mean, he's an underrated, outstanding wide receiver out of, Eastern Washington University. And I think if he can stay healthy throughout the season, the Rams have the potential of making the playoffs.
Yeah, they have potential, but the West is really crowded, Big C, especially when you have the good quarterbacks all over the West Coast. I want to go back to the East Coast. You look at DJ Moore for the Carolina Panthers. He should buy Teddy Bridgewater breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, here's a guy that came into his own last year, working with a couple different quarterbacks in Carolina. He has the speed to get over the top. Teddy Bridgewater is going to have a great safety net in him. If he wants to go deep, he has a guy who can go get it in DJ Moore.
And when you think about going deep, when you drive through Texas, you can go miles and miles and miles and not see the exit, Big C. In some places, you don't even see speed limits. You can see a speed limit in Arizona now because they let DeAndre Hopkins run out of town. They could have at least put up a road crossing to have him stop, but they let him run down to Arizona. I think Kyler Murray's going to have a field day when he finds where Hopkins, because he can catch everything, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, here's a guy who did not drop a pass the last two seasons in the NFL. You're going to pair him up with Larry Fitzgerald, a great underneath receiver, but Hopkins, with the ability of Murray to extend plays, can get deep. And he's a threat against any defense in the NFL. I think he'll have another outstanding all-pro year.
Yeah, and everybody knows that but the Houston Texans, but hey, it's all fair and love and war. Number 5, I want to go to Godwin, Chris Godwin down at Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers. I still think with Tom Brady's arm, they're going to have to get some yards after the catch. That's how Jerry Rice made his money with the 49ers. Montana wasn't throwing 50 yards downfield. It was 10 and 15 yards, and Jerry Rice would take it to the house. They may see the same thing with Tampa with Goodwin. He's pretty solid, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you think about Goodwin, you got to find him this year because he gave up his number to Brady. He had been wearing the number 12. And when you think about that dynamic tandem that they have of Edwards and Godwin down in Tampa Bay, Tom Brady is going to probably have the second best year of his career. We knew he had a season where he passed for 5,000 yards when he had Randy Moss on the roster. I easily see him getting between 45 and 4,800 yards this year down in Tampa with those great receivers.
That would be interesting. A lot of yards after the catch down there, Big C. Number 4, Tyreek Hill. Talk about a lightning bolt. This guy can run. He should be like a track star, Big C. And you have Patrick Mahomes that can run out of the pocket and give him time. That makes them a really big threat to defend their title, Big C. Your thoughts?
When you talk about speed kills, that's Tyreek Hill with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, this is one of the most threatening receivers in the NFL. And with a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who can throw the ball from any position and can buy all the time that he needs, there's nobody that can cover him one-on-one. Tyreek Hill is just a perennial outstanding receiver with the Kansas City Chiefs.
And he has to load up on catch up because that's what Patrick Mahomes likes on his steak, and they'll be sharing a lot of steak and catch up this season, Big C. 3 more, not necessarily in any order, but I want to give you Julio Jones, Atlanta Falcons. We know Matt Ryan loves to throw to Julio Jones. I saw him have a great game in San Francisco last year that won it at the goal line, and if they can keep healthy and buy more time for Julio and Ryan, it could be a nice circus act down south, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Julio Jones is one of the perennial receivers in the NFL. I don't know why he doesn't get the ball thrown to him at least 20 times a game. Matt Ryan has the arm to do it. It seems like times he gets skittish in the pocket. But I don't know anybody in the NFL that can cover Julio Jones one-on-one. He's a huge receiver, about 6'4", 220 pounds. He can run a 4.4, 4.3, 40. I mean, all you got to do is put it up and let him go get it.
Yep, put it up and let him go get it. 2 more guys that if you put it up, they can go get it. I saw this kid play at Palo Alto High School in the Bay Area. They played in the state championship, and they lost that game. But I said, this kid is amazing. Went on to Fresno State, now playing at Green Bay Packers. Devontae Adams, Green Bay Packers, one of the NFL's finest. Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they say Aaron Rodgers doesn't have any weapons. I don't know who doesn't know who Devontae Adams
he's amazing.
He's been an outstanding all-pro receiver in the past few years in Green Bay. all Aaron Rodgers, just like Julio Jones, you just get the guy the ball because he's very difficult to cover. And so if Aaron Rodgers is looking for an excuse or an outlet, just throw the ball to Davante Adams.
Yeah, there's no excuse when you got that kind of talent. And then Michael Thomas, New Orleans Saints, wouldn't it be amazing if he's the guy that catches the ball when Drew Brees passes 80,000 yards this year? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he had 149 receptions last year, and he could have had more, but he stopped at halftime of that game that he set the record in, Charlton. But there's nobody who can cover Michael Thomas. Since coming out of Ohio State, you think about the last two receivers you talked about. Davante Adams, he was a second-round draft pick out of Fresno State. Michael Thomas, a second-round draft pick out of Ohio State. You don't have to be a first-round draft pick in the NFL to be the best in the game. And these are two of the best in the game. They came in the second round.
Yeah, they're definitely just the best out there. We're going to take the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about NFL. I hope we get the season. I want to talk about the top 10 offenses. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on an app that I love called Google. Our Alexa, just say Google. Our Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing. And I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you got to have a smart TV. If not, you'll just be looking at a still picture. Really appreciate our affiliation with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants. Just tell them Big C sent you. The goal is simple: recruit 100 real estate brokers to put their property listings on TV, just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it. Sports teams do it. I hope we get sports back. Man, my mind is just stretching. Sports or science? Sports or science, Big C? I keep having these dreams. You can watch TV work for your real estate too. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Also looking for opportunities in real estate. Go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com and look at opportunities that are available for you. I want to stick with the NFL right now, Big C. I love talking about it, and since the schedule came out, it's almost like eating your favorite bowl of cereal. You keep going back, getting seconds and thirds. The top 10 offenses in the NFL, you're talking about guys that are like lightning. The #1 team, in my opinion, Kansas City Chiefs. Just give me your feeling on why.
Well, when you look at the Chiefs, there's no weaknesses on offense when you look at the Chiefs. They have a solid running game. They added to that in the draft. That track meet team that they had at the receiving corps, that could be anybody's 440 relay team.
Oh, yeah.
Their offensive line, they improved that, Charlton. They need some help in the secondary. But on offense, you have to worry about how many points you can score if you're going to stay with the Kansas City Chiefs.
You got to wonder how many points you can score. And also a team that can do it. And it's a breakout year for the MVP, Lamar Jackson. They just got better at the running back spot also. Baltimore Ravens, one of the top 10 offenses in the league. Big C, give me your thoughts on the Ravens, what they need.
I mean, they had an outstanding offense because they brought something dynamic to the table last year that we had not seen in the NFL, a quarterback who could rush for 1,200 yards. I don't think his offensive production on the ground will be equal to what it was last year, Charlton, because a lot of people have seen that and they're going to figure that out.
Yeah.
He's going to have to throw the ball better. But if he can be more dynamic in throwing the ball, that offense should stay up there and be prolific.
Yeah, we know he's accurate when he throws also. I want to take you to the New Orleans Saints. I would love to just see Drew Brees throw for the 80,000 yards. I hope it happens in the Dome if we have fans. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Drew Brees is going to get to that magical number of 80,000 yards, Charlton. That is the main reason why he came back to the NFL this year, because he wanted to be the man who got it there.
Yep.
When you look at that offense, they've always been a high-powered, electrifying offense. They play inside in perfect, pristine conditions.
Yep.
Even, games within their division, they're always in good weather. And so Drew Brees, as long as he's healthy, you always have to be fearful of that offense in New Orleans.
Yeah, always have to be. I mean, they're just an amazing team, but sometimes it's down in the last play that cost them in the playoffs, Big C. Dallas Cowboys, everything's big in Texas. Even decisions are big. It shouldn't be a big decision. Sign Dak Prescott. Dallas Cowboys should be loaded on offense, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, if Jerry Jones understands what makes his team happen, it's been the offense led by Dak Prescott with the points and the yards that they put up over the last 3 years, Charlton. The weakness of that team has been the defense. Dak Prescott needs to be in line. They also brought in some great receivers to help him.
Yep.
And so this should be even a better offense than what they've had before.
You would think so, Big C. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I know you're high on Brady, but they're going to have a short passing game. I don't see them stepping in the pocket, 5-step drop and throwing it 50 yards downfield, but they have the firepower to get it done this year, Big C. Your thoughts?
Oh, this offense sitting at number 5 in the league, Charlton, will be dynamic. You know, when you give Brady the best tools that he's ever had at any point in his career, that's what you have to be excited about. And he's going to be excited also. And you think about, they're not going to play any bad weather games like he played up in New England. It's going to be a lot more warm weather games than what he's used to playing in, Charlton. So they're going to be ringing up some points on the scoreboard like a slot machine.
They'll get a thunderstorm every now and then, but it may be like a slot machine. I count to the west coast of California, San Francisco Bay Area. They're looking for another gold ring to go on that finger, Big C. San Francisco 49ers, they can run it, and when they passed it, they had a little bit of problems last year. Maybe they'll make it better this year, but their running game is dynamic, Big C. Your thoughts?
They had a very dynamic running game. They led the NFC in rushing last year, but Jimmy Garoppolo would be much more improved. You think a guy in his first full season as a starter in the NFL, he took his team to a 13-3 record with a Super Bowl experience. They brought him in some more offensive weapons at the receiving core, Charlton. The 49ers offense will be a much more dynamic and improved scoring machine.
Well, I hope so, especially for the West Coast, Big C. I want to take you to a team that maybe you might not agree with this, but the Cleveland Browns, I'm going to put them at 7 as far as offense. They have all of the tools you would think, at least on their chalkboard, Big C. Can they put it together this year? Your thoughts?
You know, I think this team can. I said the problem with the Cleveland Browns last year is that they learned how to read.
Yeah.
And by learning how to read, they were always reading their press clippings.
Yeah.
And so this year they've dumbed themselves down, no pun intended. And so they're just going to go out and play football. They're going to understand that they got Nick Chubb in the backfield. Baker Mayfield will understand the best play that he has is keeping his mouth shut.
Yeah, you know.
Just throwing the football, and they'll have a dynamic offense.
You know, woof, 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 when you got a barking dog. You ever have a neighbor with a woof, 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 woof barking dog? They got a lot of barking dogs in Cleveland. They got to start getting in the end zone more, Big C. I want to take you still to the Midwest. Indianapolis Colts. I don't know if they need Rivers from Los Angeles. I think they have a good chance to have a good offense either way without him, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, the Indianapolis Colts, they had an outstanding draft. They had a lot of players that were hurt on offense last year. They get that full complement back, and if they can get Pittman and the running back Taylor out of Wisconsin incorporated in that offense, Phillip Rivers is going to be playing indoors, so he won't have any problem with the win for at least 8 games out of the season, Charlton. And just all he needs is 1 year to shine.
That's all he needs is 1 year to shine, Big C. And I don't know if it's going to help them if they have him in their start. I want to go to the Green Bay Packers. There's no place like Lambeau Field. I don't think they've ever not had a sellout. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, it's always a hard seat to find at Lambeau Field. Aaron Rodgers, I mean, when you look how dynamic the Packers offense was last year, they still have the same weapons that they have there. You know, Adams in the backfield. They have to make sure that he gets the touches every game, at least 22 to 23 touches a game. It makes Rodgers more effective.
Yeah, it does make him more effective. Big C, I want to take you to the Atlanta Falcons. They have a beautiful stadium, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, down there in the heart of the South. And this is a team, I know they changed their uniforms. They're kind of becoming the Oregon Ducks. But they're too dynamic not to have one of the top offenses in the league, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, they added Todd Gurley to the backfield to go along with Julio Jones on the outside. Charlton, Matt Ryan has been one of the most prolific passers in the NFL over the last half a decade. And so if he can get in rhythm early in the season and he can avoid some turnovers, the Atlanta Falcons have always been able to put points on the scoreboard.
They really have been able to do that. I know they're still kicking themselves about that Super Bowl. They were up 28-3 at halftime. But it's going to be a great if we can get the football kicked off this year, it should be a great season. I want to go just some thoughts on your friend Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell said that he's prepared to pay the league a full season, okay? But they're looking to play a full season. I know there's always talk about people having, taking away, giving away some of their salary, and there's always talk about money, giving away salary if we don't meet all the contractual obligations. But at least he says he's prepared to play a full season. But it doesn't mean it's going to happen. I hope that he's putting his faith in science and not in politics. That's my opinion. But is he prepared to make concessions based on scientific and medical information about COVID-19? Because if you watch certain administrations, you would think there's no such thing as COVID-19. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I think that the commissioner is on top of that. If you look at what he did with the draft, they made it a virtual draft. He did not bring people together. The NFL is very astute about their product, understanding that it is the number one commodity in America. It's what everyone strives for. The NBA means nothing when the NFL is being played.
Yeah.
The NBA, this should be part of the NBA season, but people are still only talking about the NFL. Having a contingency plan means that you've already thought that out. If the science proves that it's not healthy to go out there and play. And just like Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban said, you have to be more concerned about the health and lives of the individuals that you work with other than what you're trying to appease in a broadcast sense.
Yeah, especially when it's people that you love, and even if you don't love them, you still want to keep people safe. It's amazing. I want to get your thoughts. I know we talked about a lot of the great players in the NFL and the offenses that we're going to see if we get NFL football this year. The great Cam Newton, I'm a bit flummoxed as to why he's still not employed. He said he's willing to be a backup. He won't rule it out in the right situation. Now, there are a couple of teams that could use him, but this is a guy that only one time in his career has he not thrown for over 3,000 yards, and that was when he was injured and had the surgery last year. Big, so your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the timing when Cam Newton was released from the Carolina Panthers has really hampered Cam Newton from being signed, as well as the teams could not have personal contact where he could not take a physical. The pandemic was not going on, Cam Newton would have been signed already.
Yeah.
But there are two teams out there that could really use his services. And as he's talking about, he's made the concessions that he would accept the backup role. I think the first team on the list would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have Ben Roethlisberger coming off the first major injury of his career where he missed basically an entire season. No one knows what the health of his arm is. And Ben has never been a workout guru. He's always been overweight throughout his career. So you have to concern yourself with what type of shape Ben is going to be in when he comes back in and what type of timing he'll have with that surgically repaired elbow and bicep that he has.
Yep.
Second team I would look at would be the Denver Broncos. I know John Elway is always in the hunt for a quarterback, and he drafted Drew Lock in the second round last year. But when you think about the 5 games that Drew Lock played at the end of the season, those are basically meaningless games. They didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
They have the weapons. They have an outstanding receiving corps through the draft, as well as Cortland Sutton there in Denver. You brought in Melvin Gordon to go along with Lindsey in the backfield. They have an outstanding defense.
Yeah.
And if John Elway understands what a clock means, that it's ticking, that the time is running out, you have to be able to put a team together with that defense on offense that will complement it. And if you bring in Cam Newton in that situation and Drew Lock is not performing, Cam Newton, can perform, and he would uplift the spirits of that defense and make them play even harder.
Well, we know he's a former league MVP. Going back to 2011, 4,051 yards. 2012, 3,869. 2013, 3,379. 2014, 3,127. 2015, 3,837 yards. 2016, 3,509 yards. 2017, 3,302 yards. 2018, before he was injured, 3,395 yards. And even when he came back and played injured, he threw for 572. You got a quarterback that's an MVP, 29,041 yards. You can't tell me there's not a place that he can't play on some team in the NFL. I know he'll get signed. It's just a matter of trying to make sure he's healthy. I want to take you up north across the border, Big C, in the last several minutes of the day in our Mother's Day special. CFL Commissioner, Canadian Football League, Randy Ambrosie, says that the most likely scenario for the Canadian Football League is a canceled 2020 season because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's a harsh statement made to the Canadian Parliament, but, you know, you can get free health care in Canada. They're more health conscious than here in the States, it seems. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, and that's a real harsh decision that he would potentially have to make, Charlton, canceling an entire season. I know that all the American commissioners are wavering with those possibilities of what may occur, but I think with the Canadian Football League Commissioner, Randy Ambrosie, if he does decide to cancel the league for health reasons, Charlton, I think that would be a bullet point for the rest of the league commissioners to really take a stern look at, because we know that the NBA plays in Canada.
Yep.
The National Hockey League plays in Canada. Major League Baseball plays in Canada. And we know the stance that Prime Minister Trudeau has taken in Canada about everyone coming across the border having to be in a 14-day quarantine. Now, you think about how that would affect Major League Baseball teams coming into Toronto to play against the Blue Jays, National Hockey League teams, and I think just about every province in Canada has a National Hockey League team. So,
yeah.
You know, if this Canadian Football League ends up canceling it, and I do think they start in late June or early July,
yeah,
that their season starts, what type of message would that be to the rest of the league?
It's a big message. You know, if we look at Florida in the world of the MMA, they have the UFC 249. That's going to go down in Jacksonville. So I'm sure that people are going to pay to watch it just because people want to see some blood and guts and whatever they're going to do. I just hope that everybody stays safe. But Dana White, last I heard, he's not going to be in the octagon getting hit upside the head. But I want to bounce back over to the NBA, Big C. As the NBA struggles, they're trying to find common ground. Just like we talked about Canada, CFL, United States, NFL, as the NBA struggles to find common ground, there's too much indecision, too much confusion for the NBA to even continue to try to play or consider a restart to the season. Either go, it's like shifting a car. Is it first gear or second gear? You got to choose a gear and go for it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, and that's what you see. I mean, when you look at the news cycles every day about the NBA, you have seen no consistency from anybody. You really haven't heard from the players, but whether it's a reporter or a team owner or whatever. But everybody has their own dynamic of what should occur with the NBA. And we've had no input from the players. I know that they're having a conference call tonight with the players and their league rep.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is the thing that you have to look at. How do you test all the players? I know that Mark Cuban's been in the forefront saying he's not comfortable with the league starting back up. And then you have to really understand, what is the pressing issue?
Yeah,
the season has been over for over 2 months. And so to bring the league back together and to get the coordination of all the players and the venues and where they would stay and play and how would you test the players, I mean, the NBA would do itself and the rest.
All right, Big C, we had a little bit of technical difficulty, but go ahead and finish your thoughts.
Well, you know, the league would really do itself a big favor, Charlton, because
yeah, I know, and we'll have some technical difficulty, Big C, but we're all good. It's all fair in love and war. I just hope they make a choice and make a decision. On this beautiful Mother's Day weekend, I want to throw out the University of Kansas basketball program has been cited by the NCAA for improper violations. That's kind of an oxymoron, the NCAA saying that somebody did something improper, Big C. They've always had their hands in the cookie jar, it seems, Big C. So if you think about it, Bill Self, from money to shoes to improper benefits. Does anybody remember the great Rick Pitino from Louisville and then Kevin Ollie from UConn? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, we just talked about Kevin Ollie a couple of days ago, Charlton, where the NCAA upheld the sanctions against him for 3 years. And you always bring it up. Why does anybody want to go to Kansas? You know, I don't know if anybody's ever been there because, I mean, you can watch your dog run away for 3 days. There's nothing out there.
Yeah.
But, you know, as we think about over the years from Larry Brown to every coach that's been out there.
Yeah.
What is drawing players to Kansas?
Dorothy.
And when the NCAA comes out with these alleged allegations against this university and Bill Self, we know that they had a player suspended last year as well as the coach for the first few games of the season. The player stayed suspended all year. The coach was able to come back.
Yeah.
But he's also been a part of this Adidas shoe scandal, as well as, you know, lack of institutional control.
Yeah.
So the NCAA, I mean, if you're going to uphold it on Kevin Ollie, you're going to get rid of Rick Pitino also. Bill Self needs to be right there in that line.
The NCAA is like Mike Pence, Vice President Mike Pence, giving out safety issues and how the people should behave in COVID-19, and they're giving out some PPEs. None of them wore masks or gloves, and they're giving them to the older care, this home for the elderly, and they're not wearing masks. It just doesn't make any sense. That's like the NCAA speaking out of one side of the mouth. Hey, Ohio State University in the final few minutes, they committed to pay out $41 million in dozens of lawsuits by 162 former male athletes against former team Dr. Robert Strauss. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, this is an epidemic in the Big Ten. The more and more we look at this, Charlton, it started with Jerry Sandusky years ago at Penn State.
Yeah.
But it seems to be a culture that was going on in that conference. We saw with Nassar at Michigan State. We saw the team doctor at the University of Michigan, and now Strauss at Ohio State. There's something about the Midwest where, molestation has been huge against athletes over the decades, and has been, lack of institutional control. So as you sit there and you're talking about sanctioning basketball coaches for lack of institutional control, who do you sanction about all these molestations that have gone on? We saw at Penn State where they took down statues of Joe Paterno.
That's right.
They took his name off of a lot of things. What's going to happen at Penn State? Not Penn State, but Michigan State, Michigan, and now Ohio State. Seems to be Big Ten culture.
Yeah, it's abuse, and they've been hiding it, and people think it's just about women. It happens to men, too. We know there's been so many egregious things about that. We just always want to shout it out. I want to say you can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. And there's so many apps that I love. But I want to close the show a little bit different today. I want to just thank everybody for doing everything they can to keep mothers safe and families safe. And we have so many things to be grateful for on this great Mother's Day weekend. And I hope that everybody can reach out to the mothers and tell them how beautiful and wonderful they are. Big C, final story in about a minute. Horse racing at Golden Gate Fields is set to resume in Northern California in the Bay Area. They're saying May 14th, so right after Mother's Day weekend, they're going to put some guys on some horses and let them run around. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it's summertime, Charlton, and what better than summertime is to have a big barbecue where you put a lot of meat in the pit. And if you know the horse can't win a race, you know where he can go after that.
Hey, I might need some glue coming up sometime soon, Big C. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, we're looking for sports to make decisions and figure out what's best for the athletes and not what's best for the dollar. But also, I'd like to say thank you and bless you to all the frontline healthcare workers and also all the mothers out there on this Mother's Day weekend.
For all you beautiful mothers, we wish you love, peace, and soul. The great Dunkin' Nuggets every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.